So Vainglory8 is a tournament set for the elite players, and what it is to me is that it's just a kind of leaderboard, and for me it's just I always want to be the best that I can be personally, and since this is a team game, obviously I want to be the best team. So it makes me strive to become better as a person, player, and teammate for sure. So being the captain slash babysitter for Cloud9 VG it's a hard task, and getting old school in check is like the hardest job in the world, at least for me.
So
no,
apparently,
what do you mean?
Yeah, we did.
You're
dude.
such a troll.
in that game
You
that
just don't get it. Like
You just don't.
they ran,
He's a very, very great player, but our heads clash, and the good thing about old school is that whatever I say to him or whatever he says to me, like, we don't take it to heart, and that's probably the main thing that makes us successful. Like, yes, we'll clash in practice and stuff like that, but when it comes down to game time, we know what we need to do. And Joseph is just always a solid player. When Joseph and old school were together on C9Vain, I believe that's what they were, or yeah, C9Vain, they were definitely a deadly duo. So adding those two and then combining it with my knowledge and expertise of the game, I think we just form a really, really good team.
NA versus EU. Can they do it, Kiernan?
When it comes down to NA and EU, I definitely feel like NA is the better region just because we have full-time players, we have a more aggressive meta. Compared to EU, they're more passive, they like to play for the late game, and they do have really good late game team fights, but I don't really think they know how to deal with the early game aggression, and that's where they fall behind. When it comes to globally, I definitely think that NA and EA are close to each other, and we'll just have to wait for Worlds to see who comes out on top.
Essentially the epitome of clash of regions in terms of the draft here. What is it that Dynasty have to do to pull out an upset here?
Survive the early game.
Yeah, so definitely coming in as a second seed, we were playing against Dynasty, which I believe they were like a mid to low seeded team from EU. So there wasn't that much prep for them. We kind of just went in and, you know, did some normal drafts. We did a funky draft, and it didn't end up working, so we reverted back to our original drafts and were able to take a 3-1 series over them. So the games against Nova, they were very, very rusty. Like I said earlier, coming into our games against Dynasty and Nova, we felt like we were just really rusty, but we still had the mechanics and strategy we needed to win the games, but it just wasn't executed how we wanted it to be. So the games against Nova, they weren't as difficult as like the games against Immortals, but we were able to prevail just through, I feel like, mechanics and just our overall strategy of the game.
Yeah, the grand final is on the cusp of beginning. The draft is done with, the crowd is getting hyped to start things off. It's Cloud9 versus Immortals. Let's get into our grand final.
Coming into the finals of the live championships, we weren't very confident, right? So we beat Nova, and then when we went to the player lounge to kind of regain ourselves, it was more of like, hey, you know, whatever happens happens, but we all wanted to win. We wouldn't have been disappointed if we lost, because, you know, we got first last championship, and then this one we made it to the final. So it's still a very good finish, but we obviously still wanted to win. So we kind of regrouped and tried to come up with a strategy to, hey, how are we going to beat Immortals, because they're a very strong team. They actually beat TSM. So when we came into the first game, we had a draft that we wanted, and we just knew that since Immortals loved mages in the lane, we just ban one of those mages out and force them onto a different mage that they're not so comfortable with. So that's how we worked through the draft. And when it came into game, we played to our win conditions, and I think that's the main thing that we did. We focused on like, hey, if we're fighting against this certain person and their win condition is fighting in close corridors, let's not fight there. So we definitely played to our win conditions. We just had this mindset of, hey, if we can do this certain thing like fight in lane against their comp or try to take out all their miners so they can't retreat anywhere in jungle, then we can win this game, and that's what we executed. And then game 4, we just completely outdrafted them, and we baited them to do a certain comp, and we just had a pocket pick that we were wanting to pull out for the finals, and we just were able to get a dub. So getting a win at the live championships is definitely a confidence booster. It also does put a lot of pressure on us to perform really well. Coming into this weekend's VG8 and autumn season, it's gonna be a little bit more laid back. Obviously, we're still gonna want to win. We already have our ticket to Worlds, so this right here is more of a kind of a test and experimental tournament for us, I feel like, because we don't really need to show anything. We can just learn. So I think we should just be learning from this tournament rather than trying to full out win. Winning would be awesome, but since we already have our ticket to Worlds, and Worlds is going to be a lot more important than this tournament, and we just want to make sure that we're prepared for that.